So till now for get and delete book, we were using this hard coded ID. So when we go here, we are using this book ID, whatever the current value was. So to here get the ID, we are using writing that here and delete also. Now we want to create a new variable, so we can do that, and then we can send this directly to the new variable here, and then we can use the new variable in get and delete requests. So we go to both the environments and we create a new variable book ID. So every time we create a new request, so this dynamically creates a new book ID. So that will be then sent to get and delete request. We can use there. So here we had a JSON data constant where we pass the response as JSON format and store it in this object. And then we can use that here and then get dot ID to get the ID, and then we store that in a new constant called book ID. And now we go to the environment because we created these in both of these environments. So this variable, we go pm dot environment and then dot set. So we set this book ID that we get from here. This object we set that to this new variable that we created. So now we can use this variable here. We can set the value here, and also in delete body we just have to write double curly braces, and inside that we have a variable name. So now instead of running these requests one after the other, we can just go to the collection scope here. So we go to the library and we have this run option here. So this is the order right now. We can change this order also. So these will run one after the other. So we can run in the collection level together. So when we run this library, first we get this. Right now this will say no test found for both get book and delete book because we are just sending this from the add book. So this all will pass. So these all run in this order like this. And we can view this. All three have 200 status. So now to write, we can now we can write the test scripts in both get and delete. Now when we get the book result, so when we run this, we get this as an array. So here we create a new pm.test and validate the JSON response. So now we want to validate what we get in the response body by when we get a book. In function we write first to see in console.log pass this get book response. which we created here as a constant, and then we pass the JSON body, the response body from pm dot response, and then JSON. So the JSON response body is passed to an object that we can then use here. We can use this to validate the JSON response and then pm dot expect. So here on console dot log, so on console we see that this is an array which starts at the zero index. And right now we only have one element. So get book response at zero index dot author. For example, now if we want to see the author name, we want to validate that. So dot author to equal. Now we want to create a new variable to validate the author name. So we create this on our collection scope, just like we created ISBN to validate the ID. We can create a new variable author name, and we can set an author name here that we want to see in the response body, and then we want to validate that. So we use dot get and pass the variable name here, and this is some collection variables. This is on collection scope that we created this variable. So now when we run this, we will see this as passed also, because this response will be validated. So we add a book, and then we can on get request also we can validate that the JSON response body that we get. And also here, first we will have to write this new variable name here also in double curly braces. So this will take this author name, and then we can from get request you can see this validate this in response body was what we send during add book. So we can validate the author name, and then now on delete we have this body where we passing book ID, and then we can here we can use pm.expect. So this JSON data again from JSON data dot message. So what message that we get here is this. We should get this message when a book is successfully deleted. So to validate this success, message to equal, we can pass this entire message here. And first we create this constant in JSON data, and in which we pass again like the JSON format from the response body, pass it onto an object, and we can use that object to get this message to validate. So when this is validated, again we go to the library and we run from here. So all three will run. So here we see all three will run in order, and everything is passing here. So we can validate all three requests like this. Now we can validate JSON schema also. So this is what we get in the JSON body. So for example, we want to create a schema for this JSON body that that has to be put in place to validate. For example, here this has to be strings and author name, or for example, everything here should always be present. So we can actually pass this JSON body. We go to this JSON to JSON schema converter. Here we can create a new schema by passing a JSON body. So we pass this body from the response on get book. So we get this JSON schema. This type is an array, and then these are strings. And these are required fields. So now we take this entire JSON schema, we copy that, and this is to validate the response from get request. And we pass the schema here in a constant. So we create a new constant object. So we pass this onto an object, and then here to validate that we create a new pm.test, validate the JSON schema function inside of that from pm.response from response body to have this JSON schema in which we pass the object name that we created here, and we pass the entire schema inside of this. So this is how we will validate the JSON schema that should be present and what we get here in the response body. Also to validate the status 200, this is a success. So we see now this is also passed. So we validated the JSON schema for get book. Now to delete book also, we go here and what message that we get here in the JSON body. So we pass that. Here's the JSON document here, and then we generate the schema. So we get this type string and required message. This is only field that is present. So we copy that again. And similarly here in delete book post response, we paste this here and create a new object here called schema. And then we pass that. We create a pm.expect, pm.response in the similar way that we did on getbook. We dot JSON schema and we pass the object name schema, and also to validate the status code 200 for success. So this is the same pm.test that we and inside that. So this is also validated in the JSON schema. And now the ID that we create by combining ISBN and IL number. So now we want to validate that. So here in addbook script, we create a new function here in pm.test validate ID logic. So here, so we had a ISBN variable that we created to get an ISBN code with a random integer every time. So we get that from the collection variables. So pm.collection variables dot get and pass the variable name ISBN. We store that into this new constant create ISBN value. And now to get the IL number, so that IL number is not in JSON format, that is present inside this body. So we need to retrieve that from here. So to do that, we and also we have to convert that to JSON. So we do JSON.parse and inside that pm.request.body and then dot row, because this is where we write this. So we retrieve the IL number from here and then pass into a JSON, which is then which can then be stored in an object, and that's all. Then we can use this object here. Now to get from this, to get IL number from this, now we have to do request dot IL and then store that in a new object to then use to get the final ID with ISBN value. We add the ISBN code and then the IL value which we get from here from the body, and then we combine that and pass this into this new object. Then we can use this now to make it equal to book ID. So we already created the book ID variable, the ID that we get. So this is the ID that we get. To validate that, to make that equal to the expected ID which we create here by using ISBN and IL value. So we use pm.expect and to equal. So this is how we can validate the ID, but we are creating in addbook, and so but we can validate in getbook. So when we run that here, we validate ID logic. This is also passed.